They had goo. I've got goo.
What's up?
Up, homie?
Welcome, everybody, to the Infernal Brotherhood of the Scruffy Looking Nerf Herders. This is a live YouTube vidcast by Star Wars fans, for Star Wars fans, and tonight, he's a mystery character. He's a magical character. He has no background. He comes and he goes. He's the subversive, secret, mysterious stranger that enters the film and then to exit at the end. We are discussing Yoda.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Jar Jar.
No, that's the direct quote that Lucas gave everybody because he didn't want to give us a background behind Yoda.
Really?
But hey, it's Yoda! Oh yeah,
dick.
yeah, that's a direct quote. That's that wasn't
William.
just me blowing shit up, doing
really?
random words.
God damn.
I'm not
William, it's good to see you in chat. Thanks for joining us live, my man. Appreciate seeing you. We're going to talk about Yoda.
We have a couple of things to talk about, but first, let's get back to that conversation we had before we started. Just to wet your whistles.
Okay.
He's fucking insane.
I don't think Yoda was insane. I think he was playing that role to lure Luke into his lair so that he could then reveal himself.
So he could date rape him.
so he could slip him a roofie in his soup. He was like, "Oh, this is not good food. Roofie soup is what you need.
You can't have granola bars. How you get this big?
I want to stick my 3-toed feet in your vagina."
That. Oh my god. Okay, so we'll talk about that later. But
because it happened.
It happened. It totally happened.
So funny.
Yeah. So this is a character that's got a little bit of a backstory. I don't know if you guys know that.
An insane backstory.
An insane.
That, as far as we've ever known, he has always been the master, like the best of the best on the top. He's the best around. No one's ever gonna keep him down. Like that's Yoda.
True. They wrote that song about him.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Anyway, I heard he kicked the Cobra Kai sensei's ass.
Oh yeah, just straight
way before fucking. I can't remember.
Yeah, that one guy.
Kami-san? What's his name?
I don't remember.
Kimikami?
It's been so long since I've watched that shit.
What? Okay, question for the audience. What was the name Miyagi?
Oh, there you go.
Miyagi. Okay. Yoda kicked Cobra Kai's ass way before Miyagi did. And to be fair, I just want to put it out there, Miyagi didn't do shit. He just moved out of the way, and he let the dude just like punch windows. So
that works.
All he did was pinch his nose. He didn't actually beat him up. Let's just set the fucking
But if
stage.
he wins, he wins. I think that's really the important part.
I guess. If there is... All right, hold on a second. I want to go down this fucking road real quick. There is no pain in this dojo. There is no fear in this dojo. Unless you run across the window of a car and that automobile busts your knuckles, then... fear. Like get out. The way he looked at his hand after he put it through that window was just like, this is an alien limb that was just like gnawed off. I don't understand what I'm looking at. It was just pure horror. Like he went through Vietnam. You saw pictures. Like he probably did some horrible Apocalypse Now type shit to the Viet Cong, and like one fist of blood, and he's just like, oh, like crumbling to sadness.
I mean, that's fair. I've been there when you put your fist through a window and it's like, whoa! I get it.
You know what Miyagi should have done was try to mimic Yoda's voice and say, "Pussy, you are."
Would have been extremely effective, especially because he was just such a little guy, anyways. So.
Yeah. All right, let's get back to Yoda. I'm sorry, people. Can you walk us through, like, what do we know about the backstory?
Oh my god! So the backstory, the quick notes. He was born 900 years before the Battle of Endor.
Of humble parentage.
He's kind of an older gentleman.
Yeah.
He was so
For
attuned to the
900 years,
Force
you
as a
go.
youngling that they immediately took him to the
Yeah.
Order, because like there's a lot of shit that was different as far as like how the Order worked before he became the Grand Master. There was a
Wait,
real
what do you
big.
mean?
What do you mean? What do I mean?
It worked the order different. Wait.
Yeah, the Order was different before he was the Grand Master.
Okay, so let's sort of paint a picture of the Star Wars age that we're living in right now, because when we hit sort of a New Hope era, and even the prequel era, Age of the Republic, we have 1,000 years since the last Sith War and the Jedi sort of rid the world, as they believed it, of the Sith scourge, and the Old Republic ended. So 1,000 years, Yoda existed within 800 of those 1,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
So he came from and this is what I think is so fascinating about Yoda. He came from an era that was dramatically different than anything that people would ever experience for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds times 8 years.
Yeah.
And so, like, to paint a character with that type of a background, with that type of a personal history, and coming into, like, the sort of Mace Windu, or coming into the Qui-Gon Jinn, or the fucking Obi-Wan Kenobi, or Anakin Skywalker, whiny bitches like Luke Skywalker, like, the patience that this dude has is immeasurable. Because he's like, I've been dealing with your shit and people exactly like your shit for 800 years. Like, you don't even know. I was only a decade or a century away from the last Sith War, bitches. Like, I saw the like what happened to the galaxy because of that.
Oh yeah.
Like, how does that not paint your perspectives, your training styles? So so what? I'm sorry, I interrupted you. What was the what was the
Okay, so
like,
basically the difference that brought about the tangent was back in the day, during the Old Republic, like early Old Republic, you would just get apprentices, or not apprentices, but you would get younglings as they came.
Right.
Like parents would ship them off, type of thing. Whereas when you get more towards the end of the Old Republic, they would get them as infants and raise them. Like they had Jedi scouts essentially that would go out and look for the Force sensitive kids, which we actually get in like the Vader comic and stuff like that, like to the point where they literally have an entire force that is solely, working on finding the children and getting the children.
Yeah, let's make sure the Catholic Church never gets to this point. Because they're at the first stage where they're just like, oh, little children, come to my altar. If they ever get a list ahead of time, they're like, oh, you're on Maple Street? Shit's going to hit the fan. There's no turning back from that.
Yeah, no.
I find, but there is like an insidiousness, right? So if you came out of the curtain of war as a Jedi like Yoda did, and he had nearly a millennia of peace, to see the Jedi Order go from accepting recruits to recruiting children, like that's a turn. Like, how do you mentally? What are you building?
It's not even
up
children.
For?
Like they're taking babies. Fuck's sake.
Like infants.
Like the second they pop out of the womb, they're like, yoink. Fuck you guys.
Yeah, and like this is what I loved about that Dooku novel so much, is that it gave insight into what that was like. Like they went to Dooku's father and they're like, "Hey, so your kid, he's he's kind of my flavor, so can we take him?"
In Dooku's case, it was different because he's like, "Yeah, fucking take this goddamn thing. I don't fucking want it.
Fuck this monster." But that's the tone. That's what you're doing. You're like, "Hey, your child, I find very interesting. He has these things called midi-chlorians. Just believe me, don't question anything."
Yes.
And I'm going to take him now.
I can show you my beep boop boop thing.
Yeah. And everyone's just like, okay, have my child.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
Does
it's
no
pretty,
parent like their kids?
It's pretty goddamn nefarious when you actually think about it.
It's
but yeah, the Jedi Order is cool.
Yeah, they're the piece. Oh, what is
at least with like the Sith, you had to earn that shit.
It wasn't just
you popped up. Like, and there were different ways they would send you. I mean, admittedly, we really don't know anymore with the canon whether there's, as we were discussing before we got on the mic, different types of Jedi.
Right.
But I mean, with the Sith, you had specific temples that were set up to learn one fucking thing. Like
Yeah.
if you were going to be
Training
a
centers.
warrior, you went to there. If
Yeah.
you were going to potentially be a master, you went to there. Like
It was very much like modern military recruiting. It was like, oh, you have an aptitude for this, go to this training facility. Oh, you're this, go to that training facility. That's what was so fascinating about it. The Jedi were very much, at least in the canon that we understand now, not at all like that. They're just like, oh, you've got to sparkle, you got to shine. They're fucking the pervert Hallorans. They're like, oh, you know, Mama, Grandma, and I used to talk without saying a word. How's it going, Doc? Come into the room, come into my truck with me, and let's sit while your parents walk the premises of the fucking hotel for an hour. Like, who would let their... I don't want to go on another fucking tangent. God damn it.
No, that's a tangent we need to go on.
Who would let their kid... And this is like mid-70s. So racism was even more real than it is today. Who would let their kid go with an overly friendly black cook into his truck while they went and explored the fucking motel? Like, what kind of weird shit?
My theory behind that is that oh my god, why can't I think of her name right now? The mom. Like, I think she was sensitive. Yeah. She didn't quite have the shining, but I think she had some sort of inkling of it because she immediately connected with him.
Yeah.
Like, it was an instantaneous friendship.
I think they even mentioned it in the movie, but they certainly mentioned in the book that the parents, they did have the shine when they were kids, but they sort of grew out of it like most people do. And that's what I sort of connected to. I just thought it was still weird. Like, because it made a point in the novelization to say that Wendy was looking at the truck while they were in there, and that she noticed that they were arguing, or Danny was making a fuss at one point. And she was just like, should I do something? No, I'm just going to sit here all placated like she's been drugged up or something while some dude just rapes her son in his fucking
I mean, it was a different era.
Down by the river.
That made you a man.
We've all been there.
I mean, who hasn't?
Okay, let's get back to Yoda.
Had to ask for it, so it wasn't technically rape, but whatever. It's something you go through.
This is going to be a tough episode.
And Yoda probably went through it too.
He definitely went
at some point.
That's why they don't talk about his past.
That's true. That's probably why it's so hidden. Yeah, there's just so much to doing the notes for this just blew my mind. Like, there's so much that, like, even though we don't know much about this character, there's a lot of fucking shit.
Looking at your notes, yeah, we know an awful lot about someone we know nothing about.
Yeah, it's but I mean, if you think about it, it's damn near a millennia. So whatever.
Well, what I'm always fascinated by is that we know Yoda is the sort of touch point, not in a Catholic way, of all the really like insanely powerful Jedi. And of course, hindsight's 20/20, and the reality is he, you know, in your notes it says he like trained like 20,000 Jedi. So how could he not be in touch with like the most powerful and the least, you know, significant?
Well, and that's just like direct, like one-on-one apprenticeships.
Yeah.
As the Grand Master, like, and I mean, we even see it in the movies. Like, he trains younglings, like, and he, I mean, with the books, like, he swaps between apprentices. Like, even if it's someone else's, like, he would be like, ah, no, you're going to hang out with me today, and I'm going to teach you some shit. He's apprentice fluid. Yeah, very much so. Very much so. It's LGBTQA. Yeah. For apprentice fluid. No, that's what I think is so fascinating about him, is that he's literally seen it all. One thing that I always found interesting when I first joined the military, my first non-commissioned officer sort of leader character, I can't remember his fucking name for the life of me right now, but he said that he's been in the military so long that he's seen every type of person. And so he's like, and you know, you, Sergeant Castleton, I've known someone just like you over in Fort Hood, and you, you know, Private Campbell, I knew someone like you over, and you know, he was just like, I know your characteristics. Like, human beings are not so different that we don't have these echoes within each other. Like, we are very, very similar. So as rebellious as you think you are, or truly individual as you think you are, the truth is there's other people that are very insanely much like you, and sometimes look dramatically like you and act dramatically like you around the planet. And for
for my NCO to tell me that, yeah, I've seen someone just like you before, that made me think, holy shit, like this, I thought I was different. I thought I was an individual, but the truth is no one is. And if we believe the span of human history and that there's been these versions of Homo sapiens sapiens around, Cro-Magnon or Neanderthals for hundreds of thousands of years times 2 or 3, then of course we're going to have echoes of ourselves
absolutely.
ending up. Fucking Yoda experienced, to bring it back to Star Wars, Yoda experienced the exact same thing with his trainees. Like, how many supposed chosen ones did he run into in his span? And so is it not surprising that when Qui-Gon said, hey, no, this kid I found on Tatooine, he's got the look, like this kid is, that was a Roxanne, is it Roxanne song? I made a song reference and I can't remember the band name now. He's got the look, and she goes, na 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 na.
Oh, see, I was thinking you were talking like Motley Crue, Looks to Kill.
No, sorry. No, that would have been
that's much cooler.
Appropriate too. That is definitely much cooler. But like he has to have seen this story before, and so for him, he was just like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, we'll see. Like he's got a lot of fear, he's got a lot of anger, and it makes you really appreciate his point when he's constantly seeing these supposedly special heroic characters like Luke and Anakin, where they're like, no, he's too old, like he's going to be susceptible to his emotions, like we cannot count on him. I've seen this for 800 fucking years, people.
I don't know why they didn't fucking listen to him.
It's wild.
It's like, you don't know what you're talking about, Master.
Yeah, like
you haven't seen shit.
I'm fucking Yoda. Like I've been around for 800 years. Like human beings, you're lucky to reach 80.
Yeah.
Times that by 8 and I still got shit on you. Like what you got? Times that by 10 I still got shit on you. Yeah, it's wild. All right, so training over 20,000 Jedi during his lifetime. When we ran across him, he didn't have any, for the first time in episode 1, he didn't have any apprentices, but he, again, to your point, he was still training younglings in Jedi, I'm sorry, in lightsaber technique and stuff like that, which I always thought was really cool.
Oh, yeah.
We, in that Dooku novelization, we got this sense that he wasn't a standard instructor by any means.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was really picky with his apprentices.
But even his method of instruction was strange.
Oh, yeah. That was so great. Him just sitting in front of the tree.
Yeah. Do you want to expound on that just for a second?
Yeah, so, all right. So, in the Dooku Jedi Lost, like, if you guys haven't listened to it, listen to it. It's probably one of the better Star Wars audio dramas.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so there's this one master that Dooku's obsessed with and is like, I'm going to get picked by this person because I'm that fucking good. And the masters are all, of course, conferring with each other, deciding who's going to take who. And, the master that he's waiting for ends up picking his buddy Sifo-Dyas, which we all kind of know about.
Sifo-Dyas, at least by name.
Yeah. What?
Oh, I said at least by name.
Oh, at least by name. Yeah. Yeah. If you guys want to know about like the clone, like the whole clone army and shit, definitely listen to Lost Jedi. It's fucking perfect. It makes just a little one-liner in a film just explode. Anyway, so yeah, Yoda decides to take him, and before that's going on, like everybody's talking about how rare it is. Because it had been decades before he took an apprentice, and usually with all the masters in the council, every round, once they get rid of an apprentice, they take another one. And Yoda just is like, I'll take one when they come by, like when they are actually worthy of it. And he thought Dooku was. Then, I mean, Dooku was. He's super powerful, but he's kind of an asshole.
I mean, he was very tied to his planet of origin, though, like his ancestry. Like I think he was defined. I mean, arguably, we should probably do an episode on him. But arguably, he was defined by choice by his heritage, and that, I mean, even to his name. Like he never took the title master or anything. He was just like, no, I am, I'm a count. Like this is who I am. I thought when we ran across Yoda for the first time, it seemed like he knew everything. Like he was 100%, and yet he was still duped by the same. He had 857, like what is it? How many, whatever years, but 800 plus years of knowledge of Jedi training, and yet he was still duped by the power of the Sith. And to the credit of Plagueis and Sidious, and their fucking incredible power, he didn't even fucking see it coming, like at all.
And he even explains it in the third film that it's partially it's their own ignorance and arrogance that caused them to completely miss that.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's a true master to be able to, be like, yeah, we're fucking up, and just straight up calling themselves out on it, including himself.
Well, that's what I love so much about the character, is that you not only get this sense that he is all-knowing and wise, which of course he is. Everyone quotes him. At least if you've ever seen Star Wars: A New Hope, you have quoted Yoda at some point in your life, period. Like, there's no going around it.
New Hope?
I'm sorry, Empire.
I was like,
because he's actually not in New Hope.
He's definitely not in New Hope. That's Obi-Wan Kenobi, yeah. Close.
I've never seen a Star of War before.
What's this star thing you're talking about?
But if you've ever, like, he has so many great one-liners in the 2 films that he was predominant in before. For those of us before the prequels came, that's all we had. We literally had nothing else. It was 2 movies, and we still loved this character more than anything else. I mean, he was a predominant character in E.T. by Steven Spielberg, and he wasn't even a fucking a real character. Like, I mean, that tells you something. When on screen, the hero of a story spends like 15 minutes with you, and that's it. And the whole movie goes on, and yet your weight is still felt throughout the entire saga. I felt him in episode 4, and he wasn't even fucking in it. That's how powerful a presence
it's pretty goddamn powerful.
this goddamn character has. So you came into this expecting him to be like all powerful, all knowing, and yet he realizes, no, I'm just as fucking frail as any other human being, with hubris and projection and anticipated truths that end up to be wrong. Like, we are fragile creatures, like we just believe what we believe, but the Force is greater and it can help guide us if we allow it. There's some like humble instruction that he has to give that far extends beyond the films into people's lives.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, he's one of the best Zen masters there is.
Yeah, which is weird when you sort of compare it to the sort of like kung fu style Zen masters that are sort of wildly arrogant in their power. They're like, no, I'm gonna fuck you up, and then as soon as you're humble, then I'll teach you. Yoda, I mean, to be fair, he was always like, you're just not ready.
Well, he would kind of do that, but it was more of a sense of, you did it to yourself, but he was the catalyst for that.
Yeah.
Like the whole beginning of the training with Count Duku. Like, Duku was doing everything in his power to impress Yoda so that he would stop fucking meditating and start actually training him.
Yeah.
Because, of course, at this point, I mean, everybody knows he's one of the best lightsaber fucking duelist there is, and obviously super wicked powerful. And every day that Dooku would show up, he would just be sitting there meditating under his tree, and Dooku would throw a fit and try to rip the tree out, try to destroy the surroundings and shit, and like just completely exhausted himself. And once he was done, Yoda's like, okay, we'll go ahead and do some shit now.
Well, it was like it's a soft sell of what I experienced in basic training, which is very much a hard sell, which is, we're going to break you down and then rebuild you up.
Yeah.
That's all Yoda was doing in that. He was like, no, I'm going to wait for you to be ready. You're going to exhaust yourself in your pomp and circumstance. And then as soon as you've expelled every potential expression, then I'm going to know that it's time for you to be ready to receive what I have to teach you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just a passive-aggressive way of doing the exact same thing. And you got to appreciate, because I've never seen that in any type of trainer-trainee situation on film before, or not just in
Oh,
film,
yeah.
I mean, but in sci-fi. It's always been like, no, I'm going to go to the master on the hill. He's going to beat me up, and then I'm going to learn the secrets.
Oh, yeah.
It's not, I'm going to wait for you to just wear yourself down, and then we're going to talk.
Yeah.
You got to appreciate that. That's kind of cool. I was surprised about what I really loved about Attack of the Clones. Well, one of the things. I mean, there's a few things. There's a few things I don't like, but there's a few things I do like about it. Oh, hold on. Was it Attack or was it Revenge, where he was with on Kashyyyk? That was Revenge.
Yeah, that was Revenge. That was the
Yeah.
end of Revenge.
Like, I loved that he was with the Wookiees, but I didn't realize that he had a long history with the Wookiees.
Oh, yeah.
Which I really appreciate. Like, you're watching the film and you're just like, oh, that's a cheap fucking, let's throw in Chewbacca to, give people a little bit of, oh, I know him type deal. But the truth is, he was involved with negotiating difficulties between the Wookiees and the Trandoshans for fucking dozens of years. Like, that's what the Jedi did. They went and dealt with disputes and tried to work out compromises.
Yeah, that was their whole shtick after the fall of the Sith Empire. That's when they really took on the mantle of, the peacekeepers of the galaxy.
See, and that's what I always found so confusing, is that was the mantle that we were always presented with. We maintained peace and justice in the galaxy for 1,000 years, until the Dark Times, until the return of the Empire. Except that we never saw the Jedi in peace.
Yeah.
Even when we saw them in peace in Episode 1, they were still fighting. Like, from the opening scenes.
Well, and it was little skirmishes, but that was also... there were points and times, of course, where they had to be the Republic's muscle. And, I mean, that was the beginning of the whole separatist conflict.
Yeah, it always blew my mind, because they always presented this face... And yet we never really saw the face, unless our anticipation of that face was that, well, they're peaceful negotiators meant they never actually drew their lightsabers. But the truth is, as Amidala so brilliantly taught us, she was negotiating with her blaster. So sometimes negotiations they take a violent turn.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair.
So I don't know how we want to go about this, because we have we have all the episodes of the films, we have the cartoon series. Where do we want to go from here?
I mean, we're talking about Attack of the Clones and stuff. I think, honestly, with we've already hit like all the points of Episode 1, where really he's kind of just there to express, I don't think we should have Skywalker as an apprentice. He's too old, and we just feel too much conflict and fear and blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, really, we covered that.
Well, let's put a quick pin in that, saying he was fucking right.
He was absolutely right. He was 800 and some odd years old at that point.
He straight up knew it.
He's going to know. And he's the Grand Master of the Jedi Order. Like, he's in charge of everybody. He's fucking wicked smart. Like, everybody should listen, but whatever. I mean, that's Obi-Wan does whatever Obi-Wan wants to do.
What about the craziness of an Attack of the Clones when Obi-Wan reported to him, no, Sifo Dyas ordered a clone army, and he was like, what?
I guess we might as well use him.
Yeah, like, that had to be like, I knew Sifo Dyas. I was gonna train him, but he was fucking insane. Like, this guy was fucking crazy.
That is the part that it's... I mean, of course, with a book coming out, 20 years after the movie came out?
Right.
I mean, it makes sense that, they're going to take certain liberties with a character. But it almost seems like, wouldn't you fucking know about that? Like, the crazy one that has to be, like, consistently supervised. I mean, he was just barely... out of the range of getting thrown into an asylum towards the end of the book.
Yeah, his master, the master that Dooku actually wanted, and I can't remember her name for the life of me right now. Yeah. But she, what happened to her? When did she die? Like, at what point did Sidious have an opportunity to get into Sifo Dyas's head to tell him to generate the clone armies, or he just saw it as a premonition that it was going to happen, so he just did it?
Yeah.
Like, where was the master at that point? Like, and here's the other part of it is when between master and apprentice, the apprentice is supposed to shadow him the whole time. As soon as you become a Jedi, and this is something that the novels have really expounded on that I've appreciated, you're not always monitored. Like,
Yeah.
you're sort of, if you have a duty, you're assigned to your duty and you go off and do it. But you don't have people checking up on you. You don't have to punch a time clock. Like, you're just on your own.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of check into the council, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's only when they specifically tell you, hey, you know, you got to do this shit.
Yeah, and you gotta
And
have your
then, yeah,
space
report back.
beeper on if they need you. They'll fucking
Space beeper.
they'll call you for a drug deal. But other than that, you're kind of on your own. Like, do
You
your
know
thing,
it's
man.
serious when they write 420, 420, 420.
You're like, oh shit, I gotta take
Just
this
saying.
call. Sorry, baby. I know we were in the middle
God
of
damn it,
something.
I gotta find a payphone.
I need a space payphone. Do you have a space quarter? I need a space quarter. Fucking payphones. Does anyone remember those? Dirtiest goddamn things on the planet.
I found one last time I went out of town. It was
Really?
the craziest thing. Yeah, I even got a picture of it.
What?
Because, like, what is this archaic
Yeah.
technology?
Dude,
And it's so...
one of my early jobs was being an operator for payphones, and you
Oh,
would have
shit.
bums get on and call operator asking for a quarter, even though they never put a quarter in. Like, that was my job for like 3 months. It was crazy. Fucking weird
right.
world, man. All right, what are we talking about? Yoda. So
Yes, Yoda. Yes, Yoda and his use of space pagers. But yeah, so
Dialing up his
we
fucking-
pretty much covered episode 1. Episode 2, I mean, we
Then
get
we
a
get-
little bit more of him, but it's sort of almost a continuation of
Dude,
sorts.
then we get into Clone Wars, and it gets crazy.
That's where we really get it.
Like,
I
we
mean,
get-
even going back to like the cartoon that opened the
Yeah.
television show,
Yeah.
like so much of him is such a badass. Like we're
Oh
constantly
my
seeing
gosh.
him just being the leader. Like he leads by example. He's on the front line. He's ahead of his men, just wiping people out. Like he is just a
Mhm.
Billy badass, and I love this concept art form.
Yeah, it's so good.
So awesome.
And it's not far from what happened, too. I mean,
No,
like,
not at all.
it's great.
About basically what changed was he was supposed to be blue, and then they were like, nah, he's gonna be green.
Yeah, dramatic change. That's what I love so much is that from when we saw Yoda, he was already this fucking hermit on Dagobah, the swamp planet. No one, he's like crazy. He's like this weird old fucking archaic person. But then the prequels gave us like a Yoda that was like a ninja. Like flipping around and shit and like fucking stopping force lightning and like redirecting it and shit. Like a super badass motherfucker. And then the Clone Wars gave us a version of that where it's not just against his own apprentice. No. Yoda was not afraid of fucking like rolling his sleeves up and getting dirty.
Oh yeah.
Like he would lead a squadron of clones into battle, and on the heels, while they're being like hunted by Dooku separatist militia, kick some ass with
Oh,
no
yeah.
one else's help. Like just like he was like fucking putting like black lines under his eyes and just fucking like doing fisticuffs and shit. It was badass.
Oh yeah. Black lines, got the bandana, the fucking pencil crossbow that Gizmo built.
Yes.
Yeah, he
Fucking
wasn't.
full on Rambo'd it.
He was fucking some shit up.
It's so good. But that's what I love so much about it is that we knew him as this cane walker,
Mhm.
and not 30 years before that, he was like Jackie Chan in it, like drunken
Oh, yeah.
master. Like, what
Yeah,
the
he
hell
was-
just happened?
Yeah, it's crazy to think like the separation between the films, like Revenge of the Sith, and then when we see him in Empire. I mean, that's what 21 years, something like that. And it goes from just flying around the Senate room, fucking throwing shit around, and just
With
kicking the
Sidious.
shit out of Sidious, to this is mine. Go, 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 go.
Just total insanity. And there's a lot of things that I don't think George Lucas really considered in detail. Like the physical state of Yoda that we knew versus the physical state of Yoda in the prequels, which are only double digits between themselves.
Oh yeah.
For a character that lived for 900 years, that he should not have changed that dramatically.
Well,
Like the
his
version we
species-
saw.
his species might want to be one of those species where they look, like they're 20 when they're in their
Yeah, they're just
60s, and then
great, and then fuck.
yeah. I mean, there's even real life races that are like that. It just happens. Maybe that's part of it.
Yoda don't crack.
Yoda don't crack.
Green don't crack.
Yep. Until it does at 900.
Yeah, and then, oh boy, does it fucking crack. This dude got old quick.
Yeah.
No, that's what I love so much about the Clone Wars, is that we got to see a Yoda that was not confident, that questioned himself. He questioned the order. Like he knew, like, look, this is what we're, and he even did this in the 1 and 2, where he's like, the future is clouded. We as Jedi have been living this certain way, but this may not be the right way. And you get to see a sort of seed of doubt in Yoda that comes to full fruition in episode 3 after the Clone Wars because of everything that happened during the Clone Wars. But Yoda realized, oh shit, we've been doing this wrong. And we've been doing it wrong for a long, like from the beginning, as far as he's concerned. For 1,000 years, they've been doing it wrong. So you got to ask yourself, if an organization for 1,000 years has been doing it wrong, is that organization really good?
Yeah.
I mean, how? So, I mean, I'm sort of arguing against one of my most hated ideas, but is it so insane for Luke to be like, hey, we got to end the Jedi because it's never been right. It's always been wrong.
Yeah, no, fucking Yoda was thinking it. It should have happened because, of course, there were the flaws. I mean, like even in the Clone Wars, like of course, if you guys are watching along with us, we're going through the first season. Like that seems to be a pretty big underlying narrative throughout the first season is Ahsoka's questioning of, we're peacekeepers. Why do we have swords? Why are we showing our teeth? Type of thing.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Do we have to bite their faces off while we kill them? Like, can we just kill them? Like, no, you're a Jedi. Bite their face! Bite the fucking face!
You gotta do it with compassion.
Yeah. That's what I love so much about the Clone Wars, is that we start to question the Jedi Order, and not so much the Order itself, because the tenets are still sound. It's the execution of the tenets.
Yeah.
Like, our actions are not in line with our principles, and this is something that we have to deal with. Like, we think we're doing what's the best case scenario, but the truth is we don't know, and now we're starting to realize, oh shit, we may be really, really wrong. Like, we're on the wrong side here. And that's a concept that is terrifying for an order that has always seen themselves as the guardians of justice in the galaxy. Like, shit, we're doing it wrong? Like, how is this even possible? Like, aren't our forefathers, our Jedi Master before us, didn't they set us on the right track? And then we realize, oh shit, maybe they did, and we're the wrong ones. Like, we're the ones that took it to the wrong place. And that's what I love so much about Yoda, is that he was not afraid of questioning like that.
I almost wonder if that's why he set up Obi-Wan and Anakin with Ahsoka Tano. Because I almost wonder if he saw, like, not necessarily premonition, but saw in her that she would be the one that questions everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was the one that sent her out, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I almost wonder if that was his way of kind of questioning things without overtly questioning things, because she did answer to him a lot. Mm-hmm. So
I thought it was presented as he was trying to temper Anakin with her. Like, I mean, she was just a tool, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big story, but what if that was like the underlying part? Because it's like, as we discussed this, like, I'm thinking about that, it's like, fuck, that's a lot of the shit that he was questioning internally, like, she's questioning overtly. And, she was directly a part of that. I mean, I'm grasping for straws. But
no, I don't think you are. I think that's very, very fair, because there's a point where, and we're going to be touching a bunch of other tangential characters, so if you haven't watched all of the stuff that we've watched or read all the shit we have, you're probably going to be spoiled. But Ahsoka, like, gets kicked out of the fucking order as, like, she's hunted. And she's going to be brought to justice. And then they realize that she didn't actually do what they claimed that she did. And then she just straight up left the order. And
Yep.
Yoda always like had regret about that
Mm-hmm.
because he realized that I think Ahsoka was the turning point for him.
Oh yeah,
Where
definitely.
he always questioned up until then, and he thought he was doing the best that he could possibly do. Look, Anakin is headstrong, he's emotional, but if we just give him someone to focus on, he won't be so reckless. He'll stop thinking so much about his mother, and he can just focus on instructing. And then, holy shit, shit hits the fan, and just Sidious does his machinations. She gets blamed for shit she had nothing to do with. They follow suit, and then he's like, oh shit, I don't really know what I thought I knew. Like,
Yeah.
I blamed her for something that clearly I was a sucker to. And if I fell for that, what else have I fallen for?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
do you think at any point in Yoda's career as we've known him, has he ever been sure about anything, or is he always questioning?
No, and I think that's what makes him the Grand Master, like the proper Grand Master, is always questioning and always learning.
I know we love that mantra of question all things.
Yeah, yeah.
Not everyone loves that idea.
That everybody should, God damn it. It
Well,
just
they really
makes
should,
sense.
yeah. I mean, growth of individual over the establishment of ideas, but that's what I find is so empowering about Yoda himself is that he's never 100%. He's always like, even in stuff where there's never a point where Yoda is sitting after a meditation going, this is what we have to do. It's always like, oh, well, shit can happen in the opposite, but let's give it a go.
Yeah. It's like, this is what I saw, but the gears are always turning. So
Yeah. You never know. You never know what's going to happen. And that's what I love so much about him. He's always questioning, and he's flawed. Like, he is genuinely flawed. And the only thing that he is 100% sure of, that he doesn't always, through action, pay off, are the principles that he espouses. He always believes in the Jedi Order until he doesn't. And then, even then, he never actually, like, overtly says. It was Luke that said it. He never said the Jedi Order should end. You know, he just said that we've been doing it wrong, essentially.
yeah.
But the original tenets, like the principles of the Jedi Order, are still sound, according to him, as far as I understand it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That'd be my guess.
So there was some really exciting character development that we experienced, not only in Star Wars galaxy lore, but specifically Jedi lore. And if you've followed the tropes of the Jedi and the Sith, the understanding of like eternal existence, like that happened within Yoda's time by his own apprentice.
Oh yeah.
Qui-Gon Jinn. And so this is something that if you've read any of the Legends books that dealt with any Sith presence at all Sith always want to live forever and rule unconditionally, and they always seek it. And some have gotten close, and you can argue Bane maybe did figure it out.
Yeah, we'll never fucking know, God damn it.
We'll never fucking know.
Bullshit.
But there are various ways, even in canon, that you can extend your life, but none so clean as the Jedi. And only Jedi, apparently, except for Darth Vader, because, you know, he's Anakin, can figure this out. And that's how to live forever. And in this particular case, is through the Force, you know, like becoming one with the Force, as it were. And we first saw it in Episode 4 with Obi-Wan Kenobi, but he was taught by Yoda, and through meditation through Qui-Gon Jinn, and Qui-Gon, of course, discovered it himself and then taught Yoda. So this blew open this world of the understanding of the Force. And really, really recently, like if you're a Jedi Master like Yoda, who's lived for 900 years, and your apprentice is like, hey, dude, you know that thing that all the Sith have been seeking out for like all of millennia? I figured it out, dude.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, okay. All right. Sure you did. Good
Yeah,
Qui-Gon.
well, he learns after he dies, too. That's the crazy part.
Yeah, he has to fucking die and come back to be like, hey, I wasn't lying, dude. I'm right here. And he's like, oh, shit.
That's like, see, Master?
Yeah. Hey, Yoda, I can see you masturbating. Stop it. We're done, I was not.
That's why he walks with a cane. Holy shit.
Pretty messed up. That's got to be humbling, though. Like,
Oh yeah.
We have to do a Qui-Gon Jinn episode, but the beauty of Qui-Gon Jinn is that he always appreciated and loved the Jedi Order, but he was never beholden to its principles. Yoda was always beholden to its principles, even though he questioned them. But it's only through that sort of rebellious actions of Qui-Gon that they were able to achieve oneness. And we had this, and it was so in 4 and 6, we saw two masters become one with the Force, and we never understood it. And then we saw Anakin become one with the Force, and we were like, what? How the fuck did he get, like, this doesn't make sense. In the prequel, suddenly we're presented with the fact that, oh, this is a new thing that they just discovered. And we always question, well, how the fuck did Yoda learn? And how the fuck did Obi-Wan learn? Clone Wars answered that, with Yoda at least, specifically. And that journey was so incredibly exciting. Do you want to talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, fuck yeah. That's like the season finale, essentially, where he goes to meet the Celestials and all that shit. Like, if you guys haven't watched the Clone Wars, at least watch that. Like, seriously, like the last, like, it's 3 episodes, correct? I think
so, yeah.
Pretty sure. It's just him. It's after the whole Ahsoka shit where he realized, oh, we're kind of being dicks about this shit. And that's when Qui-Gon comes to him and is like, hey, Master, you want to learn some shit? Follow me. And yeah, he goes through the process to understand how to become one with the Force. So many beautiful sequences. Like, he, of course, deals with the Celestials, like the people that essentially are the embodiment of the Force, the living Force.
5 or 7 faces or something.
What's that?
It was like 5 or 7 faces of the Force.
And
we talked about the Force before, and we talked about these priestesses.
Yeah, this is all stuff we've talked about. But he even, like, during that, he even delves into his own darkness. Like, he has to battle a shadow self, where it's all of his fear, all of his anger, like all of his, just basically everything that's negative about him, he has to overcome in order to get to the point where he, goes, like, he understands how to be one. And it's so crazy too, because, like, after watching, I mean, it's already a really powerful series, but then it's like, fuck, Qui-Gon Jinn did this shit before him without somebody showing him.
He just felt his way through that shit.
Yeah,
that's how badass he
Yoda
was.
Struggled, like, and I mean, this is the Jedi Grand Master. Like, this is the guy that embodies the Jedi Order, and yeah, he struggled. He got his ass kicked.
This is what I love so much about it, is that they sort of encapsulated his journey of understanding through these sort of physical trials that he has to go through in the course of the series. And I've always been fascinated about this process whenever it comes to developing deeper arcane understanding of things. Like, I've always been obsessed with Lovecraft, and I've always loved the idea of these ancient unknowns that live between, sort of behind these gates of knowledge, that if you are able to sort of decode secrets hidden throughout the universe, you can sort of tap into these gates and go through them and learn these ancient wisdoms, and then become terrified and maddened by the realities of them. And seeing them throughout films, there's a certain number of horror films that have tried to do it. There's Lovecraftian films that have tried to do it, of showing this process of understanding, of fighting through your own arcane hang-ups in order to achieve a greater understanding of this ancient wisdom that lies dormant within the universe. The Clone Wars with Yoda was, and it sounds stupid saying it, was the best rendition of that I've ever seen. And I've seen countless fucking horror films try to do it.
Side note.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen Dark Song, you should totally watch Dark Song.
I haven't seen Dark Song.
Yeah, I was trying to think of that name last night when we were talking about what we were talking about. But
shit.
That's one where it's like son dies, mother's trying to communicate with the son one final time, and it's a whole huge ritual. Check it out. It's killer.
Is it a Japanese horror, or is it?
No. It's actually Irish, if I remember correctly.
Oh shit.
I think it's on. I'm pretty sure it's on Shudder.
Is it new or?
It's past couple of years.
Okay, it's not like an '80s thing.
No.
All
It's
right.
killer, and it goes into shit like that, like
I love that.
dealing with what's behind the door type of stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean, Ninth Gate did a pretty decent job of
Fucking
it.
love Ninth Gate.
Yeah, it's a great
That's a good one.
film. Yeah, and there's not, I can't not love that film. But it just wasn't the best with the process.
No, of
I
course.
felt like Yoda's version of it would. I mean, Yoda fighting his own fears.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many ways that you could have presented that, but and you can argue, oh, it was on its nose, like, you know, it was very, like, you're literally fighting yourself, like the dark version of yourself. Okay, but
Yeah, that's fine.
it
makes sense.
it was scary. Like, it was
Yeah.
it was difficult. It was not, and it's something that it's a metaphor for what we all deal with on a regular basis. For those of us that deal with the mental disease of depression, or worse, different mental issues that we have to fucking try to wrestle with. This is a visual representation of that I think is as true as any visual representation that I've ever seen. And it's as terrifying as you can expect it to be, and as challenging as you can expect it to be. And in the end, it's not all fucking flowers and rainbows. And I think that's a beautiful way of summing up the realities of conflict with yourself, you know?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, and if you think about it, I mean, this was all just a giant ritual for him to get the understanding. How else is he going to envision it? Because whatever he sees in the vision, it might not be the same thing that somebody else sees. What is his psyche going to imagine battling his demons are? I mean, that's what we saw.
Yeah, and it was a terrifying thought, and which spurred a whole bunch of, like, sort of online memes too. Like, what if he gave in to the dark? What if Yoda was a Sith Lord? Would he be the most powerful? Because you see that, like, the trope is the dark side is the quick and easy way to power. But the light side, it may take you more time, it may take more patience, but it's more powerful in the end. Anakin is the most powerful dark, like, Sith ever, and he was half of a man. If he was a whole man and he didn't have to spend half of his energy dealing with the confines that Sidious put him into, and arguably Obi-Wan put him into, to be fair,
it was a mutual thing.
He had the higher ground, so
he did.
He should fucking better know better. He would have been the most powerful being ever in all of Star Wars ever. And he wasn't even, like, as a Jedi, he said he was a better lightsaber duelist than Yoda, but no one else qualified that. If Yoda turned to the dark, would he have been the most powerful Sith fucking master ever? Like, I can't imagine.
I could see it. Well, I mean, if we go into Legends, I mean, he almost destroyed an entire fucking planet by embracing the dark side. Now, granted, he wasn't really embracing it. It was just a sense of proving a point to his fucking apprentice.
Oh, shit.
Like, what the fuck was it called?
That's a hell of a fucking lesson to learn. Hey, I'm just gonna fuck around with this planet here just to teach you a lesson.
Yeah, he's on Dooku's planet, and Dooku's like, please, Master, you have to understand. This is more powerful. This is where you need to be. So Yoda's like, okay, let's see. And he starts to embrace the dark side. And it's literally just tearing apart the castle. It's destroying Vijun. And it's insane. And then he just kind of looks at Dooku, and he's like, are you kidding me, dude? I've been around for fucking 800 years at this point. You think I haven't felt the temptation? I don't want this shit. Yeah, so I think just in that case, like, of course he would have been the most fucking powerful. Like, no doubt.
I love the artwork online too that has him sort of decked out as this evil Sith Lord. It's so great. I didn't include it in the stills that we're seeing scroll by, just because I wanted to sort of keep with canon, but it was so good.
Yeah.
So good. Like the what ifs. All right, so let's move beyond the Clone Wars, and let's sort of talk about where the majority of us experienced him for the first time, and that we led this conversation with, and the sort of insanity that we found him in. Was he really insane? Was he playing it up like
No, I mean, I like to think that he was
he was
insane,
only there for
but
18 years, but then 18
yeah.
years, I mean, it can play with your
Yeah.
mind.
Well, he spent the better part of a millennia constantly surrounded by people. Because even though he became a master when he was 96,
Mm-hmm.
he's still, like, I want to say, and again, this is really hard because I don't know whether this is legends or if this is considered canon,
Right.
but he was 21 when he became a Jedi, like, became a Padawan. So you got to figure, 21 to 800 and whatever the fucking math is, because math is dumb. Like, he was constantly around people. He was constantly around other sentient life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he lived off of it as much as he gave to it. So I could see him going insane being so isolated, and especially given the fact that he's hiding on a planet that's, like, known for its dark side nexus.
Yeah.
Like, just to be able to hide from, the new power that be. Like, I find it hard to believe that he didn't kind of partially lose it.
I see, and I wanted to touch on that too, because we have to understand that he specifically chose Dagobah because it was an insanely powerful dark side of the force nexus. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there was dark side energy emanating from it, not just that stupid fucking cave, though specifically from that cave, but the planet itself was enveloped in the dark side of the force, and he knew he had to hide or else he would be destroyed by Sidious. That's how badass Sidious was.
Yeah.
The only place he could hide was in a place of sufficient dark side energy to mask his light side presence. And so he had to go to the darkest of the dark, the most vile of the vile, Dagobah. How could that not corrupt you? It's corrupted the entirety of the planet. You spend enough time around a dark force nexus and you will be affected by it.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I
it's
would
crazy
say,
to think too, like, and this is completely side tangent, but it's crazy to think with how much Sidious went around the galaxy, because he knew of different temples and different nexuses and stuff.
right.
Like, he would go to them and just completely, like, he would either hide shit there or he would change star maps and stuff. And I mean, going to Korriban, changing it to Morriban, going to Zyos, like, going all over the place. Like, he went to all these places to make sure nobody knew, but yet he never decided to look at the little swamp planet. So I just always found that funny.
Yeah, I mean, you can always say, like, oh, he went there before he was, or maybe there's, I mean, we have to be fair. This is a galaxy that is consistent of hundreds of thousands of solar systems. So
Yeah.
it's not exactly like one individual has the time to go to every single solar system and visit every habitable
That's true,
planet
I
on
guess.
every solar. So I mean, we like the scope alone. When we think of a galaxy far, far away, we have to understand what a galaxy means.
Mhm.
And our understanding, oh, it takes me fucking an hour to get to work, or it takes me 12 hours to fly to another country overseas. Well, imagine going to the far reaches of a galaxy. Like, your
Yeah.
lifespan won't be long enough. That's the reality of it. Like, unless we had faster light than travel or hyperspace or hyperdrives, we would not be able to do it. And then even
No.
if you did, you wouldn't be able to go to all of them. And so it very much had to
That's
be one of
true.
those things where he had to have heard of it, and then he had to have put it in his priority list of all these things that I have to be able to do. These are the places that are most important. Dagobah apparently was either low on the list or just not even known to him. And I can
Yeah.
understand that too, because we have to understand the reality of the Jedi-Sith dichotomy. The Jedi Temple on Coruscant was built on top of a Sith temple.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I mean, that's,
they didn't.
like, if we go into Legends, like,
Yeah.
that is the center of the galaxy, and that's the center of the Sith Empire. Like, that's where all life came from, essentially.
Like, we all shit on Sidious and his new empire for wiping out the scourge of the Jedi for the past X years, but the Jedi did it before that. for 1,000 years. So
Yeah.
who's the bad guy? I mean,
That is
you know,
true.
I mean, the truth is maybe like the Jedi may have had records of it. That doesn't necessarily mean Sidious knew about the planet. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, and not for nothing. I mean, Sidious was a magician of the truest sense. Like, he studied Sith alchemy more than any other Sith that we've ever heard of, except for maybe Bane. But even then, like, Bane was very isolated and living forever, and Sidious is always like, the more knowledge, the better. So I've never heard of a Sith master like Sidious before, of trying to gather as much variant knowledge of the Force. So, you know, maybe he never even heard of it. Who knows? But I do like the fact that he had... My only complaint with that idea that he was corrupted by the dark side of the planet that he was hiding on, was that as soon as Obi-Wan reached out, when Yoda's like, he's not ready, and Yoda's like, was I any different when you taught me? He just turned right back to normal. He was just like, oh, I'm sane again. Like, I'm totally cool. Like, no, like, if you're corrupted, I want you corrupted 100% all the time. Like, have your side rational conversations, but then go right back to crazy. But he didn't do that. He went from like insanity clown to straight mentor, like that. Just because Obi-Wan was like, "What's up, homie?" Like, I don't know. That's the only thing that bugged me about it, is that he went straight to it. And then as soon as we got Last Jedi, he went right back to fucking clown.
Oh yeah.
Like, what the fuck? If at any time you're going to be able to come to a rationalization of your 900 years of life and find some mode of communication that is normal and rational in those 900 years, why would you go to the craziness before you talk to Obi-Wan in the first moments of meeting Luke? That doesn't make sense why you would go there.
Yeah.
The only thing that I could even rationalize that they would make that choice is because they were trying to tie it to Empire. But that ignores the second half of Empire and all of Return. Like, Yoda was a very rational person. We just...
Yeah.
It drives me crazy. And the fact that everyone, even fucking Oz, Frank Oz was totally down for it. He was like, oh yeah, I'd love to fucking... He wasn't a crazy character. He was never a crazy character. He always questioned things, and that's what I loved about Yoda, but he wasn't fucking loony. Like, he wasn't fucking hitting R2-D2 with a stick because it was fun. He was putting on a fucking lesser magic. He was putting on a facade, you know? That's a weird reference for some of you people. Applied psychology is what he was doing.
Yes, applied psychology.
It always bugged me, and it will always bug me. Like, I can accept, because it's canon, that Yoda agreed with Luke that the Jedi, as they were, must end. And that ultimately it didn't matter about burning that fucking tree because Rey already stole the shit, but Luke didn't.
Exactly.
So the idea of destroying this tree was really just a symbolic one for the sake of Luke, to try to get over his own hurdles. And that being said, I get that. But why is he still acting like a crazy kook at that point?
I think it might just be his dynamic with Luke. Like, that might... He looks at him as a younger brother friend type of character, and he wants to fuck with him.
It's just like...
That would be my guess. That's kind of how it comes off.
Like, when he meets Luke, what is Luke, like 19? 20
no,
when he first
he would
meets
have
him?
been 21.
When
I believe he was 21 at Empire, yeah.
Okay, so he's 21 when he first meets Luke. He's known him through the Force from that point through the next 50 or 40 years. So they know each other. The whole time is Yoda just being like crazy kooky Force ghost guy? The whole time?
I could see it.
That would drive me nuts. I can't accept that.
I mean, he's got to have a sense of humor, though. But
he's transcended the nonsense, right? Like, he's got to be like, no.
Clearly he hasn't. Clearly
he hasn't. Yeah. Well, and this is the other part. Like, and this is what I love so much about that from a certain point of view anthology, was the way it presented what it meant to be a Force ghost and what it meant to manifest yourself. When Obi-Wan was saying when he was manifesting himself, it actually hurt him. And it was not comfortable, and he was not happy about it at all. It makes me think, well, is Yoda being Yoda because that's who he is? Or is he simply... Okay, let me try to rephrase this so this makes more sense. When you are one with the Force, are you really yourself? Or are you an echo of who you were?
That's the whole point of... Because when everybody dies, you become one with the Force. That just goes without saying.
Right.
But it wasn't just becoming one with the Force, it was going corporeal. So,
being able to have
your physical
thought.
body was gone, but like you still had your sentience about you. And
it's that sentience that's different.
What's that?
It's the sentience that's different.
Yeah. Yeah, like that was what Qui-Gon found and what he trained Yoda to do.
Yeah. And then you start to question, well, what is self? You know, I mean, we can go down the rabbit hole here. Who are you? What you present, or are you something different than that? And is your understanding of who you are? This is a very fucking philosophical idea. Are you the understanding of you, or are you just trying in your entire existence to understand the truth of who you are? You know, I mean, so when if you do ultimately go to this sort of oneness of the Force and you've mastered the intricacies of knowledge so much, this arcane knowledge, that you can manifest yourself and maintain some sorts of sentience separate from this oneness, or at least in some instances be able to pull yourself away from this oneness in order to create this vision for those still living, is that you? Is that the Force instead representing the you that the people you are presenting yourself to know of you? Is there any ever idea of self at all? Or are you just an instrument of the Force at that point? You know, I mean, you start to sort of get into these craziness.
Yeah, that's pretty heavy.
These fucking weeds. But this is the side of it. Like, this is the George Lucas that I love so much, and this is why I'm so sad that we're never going to see what he actually intended in the sequel trilogy, where he wanted to delve into the midichlorians and the Force and the wills and what it meant to be one. You know?
Well, we can't really say that. I mean, we did get some, incarnation of the original, Star Wars script at some point. So who knows? Maybe the same thing will happen. I mean, albeit though it was through comics and it was a little series, but it was still something that George had originally intended and then scrapped. So hopefully, I'm not holding my breath, but I'm definitely holding out for hope, like that shit happens. Yeah, it'd be so awesome.
I'd love to see it. And they have nothing to lose. If they just released it as a script. As written, like the Lost sequel trilogy, a compilation book of notes and shit, I would totally buy that shit.
Oh, absolutely.
Like the coffee table, give it to me. I'd love it.
Yeah.
I mean, we're sort of at our hour. We haven't touched a fraction of the Yoda life, but is there anything else you wanted to touch on? Like, what are some of the more like sort of crazy, random shit?
Well, let's see. God damn it, where did my notes go? So just a couple of weird things that I thought were of note that people should know. Supposedly, he has different toes, like a different amount of toes in the films, like throughout the films. I can't say I found that, but it's something I saw. I was like, that's funny. I'm going to watch these movies again.
I'm going to be paying attention now.
Yeah. He's also appeared in not only Star Wars, but he appeared with the Muppets at one point. He was in a Very Merry Muppet Christmas movie.
I didn't know.
Which I've never even fucking seen that, so now I have to see it because it's canon. God damn it!
I've seen a Muppets Christmas. I haven't seen a Very Merry Muppets.
Yeah, no, I didn't even know that was a thing. Which I mean, it's Muppets. Of course, you love it. And then supposedly there's a Yoda hip hop video on the special edition DVDs. There's a whole process to go through it. let's see. So when you go to the options menu, you got to highlight the THX logo, press 11, wait for the pause, press 3, wait for the pause, and finally press 8. And then supposedly at that point, and I don't know if this works with the Blu-rays or anything, so let's just say that it's the special edition DVDs that came out in, what was it, 97?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, supposedly it goes to a Yoda hip-hop music video. And I'm going to fucking try this shit later on tonight.
So weird. That is so weird.
I
do have to say that, like, I have the original or prequel sequel trilogies on that Blu-ray collector's set. It has so many special features. I've never been able to get through them all.
And hidden special features.
Yeah.
Like, they fucking just went balls deep on that release.
It's great. It's just great. I love it so much, and I'm so glad my wife loves me enough to have bought it for me.
I'm so glad my wife loves me enough to let me fuck with my own money.
Yeah. That it does remind me of like the old like Contra, all like unlimited lives cheat, up down down, left right BA start thing. Like that's old school Nintendo shit. Like if you don't know that, you don't know. Like there was an era of video games where if you didn't know the secret code that came in a magazine that no one ever subscribed to, then you just didn't fucking know. And it was like a urban legend. You know, that someone told you about it. Oh, where did you learn this? Oh, my brother's nephew who lives across town, heard it from a friend type shit, It's like total bullshit, crazy stuff. And then, like, I don't know, like Nintendo Genie came out and like gave everything away for a fucking click bullshit. But there was a time when video games were super secret.
To an extent with like the Game Genie, the Game Shark, you still had to kind of know stuff in order to access it. Like if you didn't know something specifically was there, you couldn't just like look up a fucking code for it.
I do like that idea though. Like you have to be in the know to find the good shit.
Oh yeah.
Like I think that's so cool. And it extends beyond as adults, like, there's this great club if you go down this alley and at a certain time you say this certain thing, they'll let you in. Cool. But there's like secret Yoda rap battles if I knew a certain fucking code in a certain order to unlock. Hell yes. That's like next level shit.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's cool. I have to find this. And I don't want to just cheat and look it up on fucking YouTube. Like that's just boring. Like I feel like people don't appreciate secret stuff like that as much as they should or as people used to.
This is what we were talking about earlier. About the unlocking of ancient wisdom. These are the gates we have to go through, people.
Yeah.
Don't cheat yourself of the experience.
Yeah.
You need to grab. This is straight up like fucking Cinnabite shit. You have to get the puzzle box and fucking unlock it for yourself, and then you'll know. You may be worse for the wear for it, but it's your experience. Enjoy it.
But you're gonna get a wicked awesome leather suit in return. So it's
true. You can be fit.
You win some, you lose some.
All right, that's all I have. Anything else you want to talk about?
No, I'm good. I think we covered it. Like it's so funny because when we first had discussed that we were going to do an episode on Yoda, it's like, oh, cool. I wonder if I'm going to be able to find anything because we really don't know much about him. And just a little behind the scenes shit. I did the show notes over 2 weeks, and the first draft was about 25 fucking pages. I managed to whittle it down to 14, and even then, we haven't even touched on legends or anything. So it's so crazy that there's so much information on a character that we know nothing about.
Well, and the thing is like we've done a ton of characters in the going on 3 years that we've been doing this show. And like, I think our first character focus was Han Solo, and that was before he was ever killed. And so, spoiler. So we have to revisit these guys from time to time. Like the more that we uncover, we could do a whole show on the Han Solo that we never knew.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, with Last Shot, with Solo, with The Force Awakens. I mean, that's enough for an episode itself, and that's just
Absolutely.
one character that we already discussed ad nauseum for an hour. So,
Yeah.
like, there's no reason why we can't revisit someone like Yoda in another sort of legend-focused episode and really dive into it. So that's what I love about this stuff. It's never ending.
Yeah, and you learn something new. It's always great.
You were always the caretaker. Always.
Fuck. Even back to the party?
Always. All right, that's it, everyone. Thank you guys so much. William, thanks so much for joining us in the chat room. It's great to see you again.
Yeah.
And everyone, if you love Yoda, shout it out. Let us know what your favorite notes of Yoda are. Do you have a favorite quote? Is there a moment in the story that we've learned thus far about him that you prefer over others? Or do you just fucking can't stand him and you can't stand everyone quoting him all the goddamn time? And there's something that you just want to say. If you could say something to Yoda just to shut him down and just verbally abuse him, put it in the comments below.
Okay, I want to hear this.
I don't know why. Give us all your Yoda hate.
Yes, please. Because I want to get into the mind of somebody that doesn't like him.
Yeah, we want to learn what makes a psychopath tick.
Absolutely.
So get us on the inside there. Thank you guys so much. Again, we have 2 main shows during the month, the second and fourth week of every month. But of course, we're doing reviews of all the TV series, and we're in the middle. We're knee deep in the first season of the Clone Wars right now. We've already done Clone Wars, the original series. We've talked a little bit. We've dusted Rebels. We've done the whole first season of Resistance, and we've got a lot coming down the pipe. So, weekly content, Star Wars focused, Infernal Brotherhood of Scruffy Looking Nerf Herders all up in your ass.
Fuck yeah.
We're usually much more sober than we are right now.
This tea has sobered me clean up.
God damn. I'm just struggling. Thank you guys so much, and until next time, may the Force be with you.
Happens to every guy. Sometimes this does.
Wait, what?
That's an actual Yoda quote.
Like a penile enhancement quote?
That's my guess. I mean, he was 900 years old, for Christ's sake.
That's true. You need steroids to keep it up after 900 years.
Or a pump.